You already know what I'm about to say. That's the most terrifying part. You've sat in this exact chair before. You've had this same thought at 2 a.m. when the ceiling stared back and the silence screamed louder than your conscience. You've promised yourself tomorrow so many times that tomorrow has become a graveyard of broken vows. Every single bad habit you're carrying right now started as a coping mechanism. It was a friend who promised to help you feel better. It was a warm blanket on a cold night. It was the only thing that made the noise stop. But that friend has become a warden. That blanket has become a chain. And the noise never actually stopped. You just buried it under another hit, another scroll, another drink, another excuse, another hour of pretending you're fine when your insides are screaming. Look at your life right now. Not the one you post online. Not the one you tell your mother about. The real one. The one that wakes up tired, drags itself through motions, collapses into distraction, and repeats. That life is a direct mirror of the habits you refuse to slaughter. And here's the brutal truth no one will tell you with enough force. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a permission problem. You keep waiting for the version of yourself that doesn't exist to save the version of you that's bleeding out right now. Stop waiting. That hero isn't coming. Section 1. The slow death you call comfort. Let me describe your morning. Not the idealized version where you rise with the sun, stretch like a warrior, and sip lemon water while journaling your gratitude. I mean the real morning. The alarm rips through your skull. You don't wake up. You surfaces. You grab the phone before your eyes focus. 30 minutes vanish into a glowing rectangle while your potential sits on the nightstand like a neglected weapon. You finally drag yourself upright. Your body feels heavy because your habits have taught your nervous system that heaviness is normal. You tell yourself tonight will be different. You actually believe it. By 10 a.m., the first crack appears. Someone sends an email that irritates you. A coworker says something passive-aggressive. Your brain, trained for years to seek immediate relief, pulls up the menu of escapes. Coffee with too much sugar. A quick look at social media. Gossip about someone else's failures because focusing on your own is too painful. And here's the psychology you need to carve into your chest. Every single time you choose the easy escape over the difficult truth, you are not relieving stress. You are building a tolerance to numbness. Your dopamine receptors are fried. The little hits you get from checking notifications, eating processed sugar, procrastinating on hard work, they're not making you happy. They're making you less capable of feeling anything real. Real joy requires discomfort first. Real peace requires confrontation first. Real freedom requires losing the very habits you think are keeping you sane. You tell yourself you'll quit tomorrow, but tomorrow is a liar. Tomorrow is the most convenient illusion ever invented because it allows you to feel virtuous without doing a single difficult thing. I'll start Monday. Monday comes. Nothing changes. I'll do it after this stressful project. The project ends. The habit expands. Just need more willpower. Willpower is not a magic potion. Willpower is a muscle that gets exhausted by 3 p.m. if you spent all morning negotiating with yourself about whether to check your phone. The science is unforgiving. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-control, is only about the size of a fist. It runs on glucose. It gets tired like your legs after a run. And every micro decision you make, should I reply now or later? Should I eat this or that? Should I work or scroll? Drains that small tank. By evening, your prefrontal cortex is waving a white flag. That's when the bad habits don't just knock, they kick the door down, and you let them, not because you're weak, because you've spent years training your brain to default to escape. You are a world-class expert at avoiding your own life. And somewhere underneath the fatigue, the clutter, the numbed-out evenings, the real you is screaming through a gag. Let me take you into a real-life scenario. You're at work. Your boss gives you feedback that feels like a punch. It's not even harsh feedback, it's just honest. But your habit brain interprets honesty as threat. Your amygdala fires, your cortisol spikes. Your body prepares for fight or flight. Except you can't fight your boss and you can't run out of the building. So you do the next best thing. You retreat internally. You open a tab you shouldn't. You text someone who validates your victimhood. You spend 20 minutes mentally rehearsing all the reasons your boss is wrong. Congratulations. You just avoided the discomfort of feeling criticized. And you also avoided the growth that comes from sitting in that discomfort, feeling it burn and choosing to say, "Thank you, I'll work on that." The bad habit isn't the tab you opened. The bad habit is the sequence. Trigger, right arrow discomfort, automatic escape, right arrow temporary relief, right arrow long-term shrinkage. Every time you avoid the hard thing, you shrink your life by 1 inch. Do that 1,000 times and you wake up 40 years old in a body you resent, a career you tolerate, relationships you manage instead of enjoy, and a soul that feels like a radio playing static. You need to understand something violent and true. Your bad habits are not your friends. They are parasites that have convinced you they're essential organs. Smoking doesn't calm you down. It relieves the nicotine withdrawal that smoking created. Checking your phone constantly doesn't connect you. It makes you incapable of being alone with your thoughts. Procrastination doesn't protect you from failure. It guarantees a life of last-minute panic and mediocre results. Overeating doesn't fill an emotional void. It expands the void while shrinking your health. The habit loop is identical whether you're biting your nails, drinking too much, or avoiding difficult conversations. Cue, craving, response, reward. The reward is never what you think it is. You think the reward is the substance or the behavior, but the real reward is the temporary silence of the inner critic. For 5 minutes after you give in, the voice that says, "You're not enough, you're failing, you're behind," goes quiet. That's what you're addicted to. Not the cigarette, the silence. Not the screen, the escape. Not the food, the numbness. And that silence is a lie that's costing you everything. Here's your challenge at the end of this section. I want you to write down exactly 1 bad habit you've been protecting. Don't write 3, don't write 10, write 1. Then write down what you feel 5 seconds before you do it, not after, before. That feeling, the itch, the tension, the emptiness, the boredom, the anxiety, that feeling is your actual enemy. The habit is just the weapon you use to kill the feeling temporarily. Your task this week is not to quit the habit. Your task is to sit with that feeling for 60 seconds before you act. No phone. No substance. No distraction. Just you and the discomfort. Count to 60. See what happens. That 60 seconds is where your freedom begins. Section 2. The neuroscience of self-sabotage and how to hack IT. Your brain is not broken. That's the first thing you need to hear. You've probably called yourself lazy, weak, undisciplined, a failure, broken. None of those words are true. Your brain is doing exactly what brains evolved to do: seek reward and avoid pain. The problem is that your modern environment has hijacked a system designed for survival on the savannah. 10,000 years ago, a dopamine hit meant you found berries or water or safe shelter. Today, a dopamine hit means you opened an app that was engineered by 150 of the smartest people in the world to keep your thumb scrolling. You are not fighting your own weakness. You are fighting a multi-trillion-dollar attention economy that has studied your psychology more deeply than you've studied yourself. Every notification, every color, every vibration, every intermittent reward schedule, it's all designed to keep you in the loop. The loop that feels like choice but functions like a cage. The loop that tells you just 1 more and then steals 3 hours. The loop that makes you feel guilty but not guilty enough to change. Let me explain the habit loop in plain English. Charles Duhigg and 1,000 neuroscientists have mapped this beautifully. Step 1. Cue. A trigger enters your awareness. It could be an emotion, boredom, stress, loneliness, exhaustion. It could be a location, your desk, your car, your couch. It could be a time of day, 3 p.m. slump after dinner lull. Step 2. Craving. Your brain anticipates relief. Dopamine, the molecule of anticipation, floods your system. Here, what most people get wrong: dopamine is not released when you get the reward. Dopamine is released when you anticipate the reward. That means the craving itself feels good. That's why scrolling Facebook feels compelling even when the actual content is garbage. Your brain is chasing the promise, not the payout. Step 3. Response. You perform the habit. You reach for the phone, the bottle, the fridge, the remote. Step 4. Reward. You get a tiny hit of relief. The craving subsides. For about 3 seconds, you feel okay. Then the cycle starts again. And here's the brutal part. Every time you complete the loop, you strengthen the neural pathway. The brain prunes unused connections and myelinates used ones. That means the more you do the habit, the faster and more automatic it becomes. You are literally carving a riverbed in your brain. The first time you checked your phone in a meeting, it was a small stream. After 10,000 times, it's the Mississippi. Trying to stop that habit with willpower alone is like trying to stop a river with your bare hands. But here's the shift that changes everything. You cannot delete a habit loop. The neuroscience is clear on this. You can only replace it. The cue and the reward are often non-negotiable. If you're stressed, cue, and you want relief, reward, you will get that relief one way or another. The only variable is the response, the behavior in the middle. That's where you have leverage. If your habit is stress eating, the cue is stress and the reward is relief. You can replace eating chips with walking outside for 3 minutes as long as both deliver relief. Notice I didn't say meditate for an hour or do a full workout. Those are too difficult when your brain is screaming. You need a replacement behavior that is nearly as easy as the bad habit but slightly better. 3 minutes of walking, 10 deep breaths, 1 text to a friend who gets it, 1 minute of stretching. The key is to keep the cue and the reward identical while swapping the middle action. Your brain will resist at first. The old riverbed is deep, but every time you choose the new response, you lay down a new path. After about 60 to 90 days, the new path becomes the default. Not because you became a superhero, because you became a scientist who worked with your brain instead of against it. Let me give you a real-life example from my own struggle. I used to drink when I felt social anxiety. Party, crowd, fear of awkwardness, cue, craving for relief. Response, drink, reward, numbness. Then I learned the science. I realized I couldn't delete the cue, I still had to go to parties. I couldn't delete the reward, I still wanted relief from anxiety, so I replaced the response. Before every social event, I started doing 2 minutes of box breathing. Inhale 4 counts, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. That breathing activated my parasympathetic nervous system. It lowered cortisol. It gave me a sense of control. The anxiety didn't disappear, but it dropped from an 8 to a 6. That was enough. I walked into the party sober. The first hour was hell. The second hour was fine. The third hour, I realized I was actually connecting with people, not performing connection, real connection. That night, I didn't wake up at 3 a.m. with regret in a spinning room. I woke up tired but clear. That is the reward loop you're missing. The reward of self-respect. The reward of integrity. The reward of proving to yourself that you can do hard things. That reward takes longer to arrive than the cheap dopamine hit. But when it arrives, it stays. Your environment is silently dictating most of your habits right now, and you don't even see it. Behavioral psychology has proven that the person with the most willpower is still going to fail if their environment constantly cues the bad habit. If you keep junk food in your house, you will eat junk food. Not because you're weak, because your brain sees food and releases dopamine. That's biology. If you keep your phone next to your bed, you will check it at midnight and 7 a.m. Not because you lack discipline, because the cue is 6 inches from your face. If you hang out with people who normalize the habit you're trying to quit, you will keep doing the habit. This is not judgment, this is physics. You cannot outrun your environment, so change it. Hide the phone in another room before bed. Throw away the junk food. Uninstall the apps that steal your time. Tell your friends I'm not drinking for 30 days and let the real ones support you and the shallow ones reveal themselves. Your environment is a chessboard. Right now, your bad habits have placed all the pieces. You have the power to flip the board, not overnight, but one square at a time. Here is your action step for this section. Identify one cue that triggers your worst habit. Is it the time of day, the location, the emotion? Write it down. Then redesign your environment around that cue. If it's the phone on your nightstand, buy a real alarm clock for $15 and charge your phone in the kitchen. If it's the vending machine at work, bring a bag of almonds and keep it in your drawer. If it's the friend who encourages your drinking, suggest a coffee meetup instead of a bar. Do not trust your willpower, trust your environment. Make the good habit easy and the bad habit hard. That is not cheating, that is strategy. And strategy beats willpower every single time. Say this out loud. I'm not fighting my brain, I am learning to work with it. My habits are not my identity. They are just patterns I have the power to rewrite. Section 3. The identity shift. Who you are vs. What you do. You've been trying to change your behavior. That's why you keep failing. Behavior is the last thing to change, not the first. Every self-help book, every motivational video, every well-meaning friend has told you to just do different things. But doing different things without becoming a different person is like painting a rotten wall. It looks okay for a week. Then the rot shows through. You need an identity shift, not a habit tracker, not a 30-day challenge. A fundamental redefinition of who you believe yourself to be. Right now, somewhere in the basement of your mind, you believe you are the kind of person who struggles with this habit. You believe you are someone with low willpower, or bad genetics, or too much stress. Those beliefs are not truths. They are stories. And they are the invisible chains that keep you locked in the exact same behaviors year after year. You cannot act in ways that contradict your identity for very long. Try to act like a non-smoker while secretly believing you're a smoker who's just taking a break. Your brain will sabotage you every time. It will whisper, "Who are you kidding? You're a smoker, this is temporary." And then you'll light up. The psychology of identity-based habits is ruthless and beautiful. When you ask someone, "Would you like to quit smoking?" most smokers say yes. When you ask, "Are you a non-smoker?" most smokers say no. That second question is the real one. Because until you identify as a non-smoker, every cigarette you don't smoke feels like deprivation. But the moment you identify as a non-smoker, every cigarette you don't smoke feels like alignment. Do you feel the difference? Deprivation versus alignment. One is a fight, the other is a homecoming. The same applies to every habit. "I'm trying to eat healthy" is a sentence spoken by someone who still identifies as an unhealthy eater who's making a temporary sacrifice. "I'm not the kind of person who eats processed sugar" is a sentence spoken by someone who has changed their identity. The behavior follows the identity, not the other way around. You don't wake up one day with perfect habits. You wake up one day and say, "I'm someone who values discipline," and then your actions over the next 6 months slowly catch up to that declaration. Let me show you how this plays out in a real-life scenario. You're at a work party. Someone passes around a tray of drinks. Your old identity says, "I'm someone who drinks to fit in." Your new identity says, "I'm someone who values clarity." When the tray comes to you, the old identity feels a tug, but the new identity creates a different internal conversation. Not "I can't have that," which feels like punishment, but "I don't do that," which feels like power. The words are almost identical. The emotional charge is completely opposite. Can't is external. Don't is internal. Can't is a cage. Don't is a choice. This is why the most successful habit changers don't talk about quitting. They talk about becoming. They don't say, "I'm trying to stop procrastinating." They say, "I'm becoming someone who honors their word to themselves." Language shapes identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. And results loop back to reinforce identity. That's the upward spiral. You don't need to believe the new identity fully on day one. You just need to act as if it's true. The belief will follow the action within about 6 to 8 weeks. That's the neuroscience of self-perception theory. Your brain watches what you do and then decides who you must be to do those things. If you act like a disciplined person for 60 days, your brain will eventually conclude, "I guess I am disciplined." And then the struggle becomes natural. But here, where most people break, they try to shift identity without changing their self-talk. Your internal dialogue right now is probably abusive. You wake up and the first voice you hear says, "Did you really sleep that long? You're so lazy." You make a small mistake and the voice says, "See, you always mess up." You resist a craving for 2 hours and then give in and the voice says, "Pathetic. You have no control." That voice is not your friend. That voice is not truth. That voice is a habit. A neurological pattern of negative self-talk that you've reinforced so many times it feels like your real voice. But it's not, it's just noise. And you can change it, the same way you change any other habit. Catch the negative thought, pause, replace it with an intentional thought. Not a fake positive affirmation that feels like a lie, but a true statement that is slightly more compassionate than the negative one. If the negative says, "You're so lazy," you can say, "I'm struggling right now," and that's human. If the negative says, "You always fail," you can say, "I've failed before and I've also succeeded." This is not toxic positivity. This is cognitive restructuring. It's been studied for decades and it works, but you have to practice it like a sport. Your negative self-talk has thousands of reps. Your new self-talk has maybe 3. Don't expect to win overnight, just expect to start. Your body language is also a habit, and it's probably reinforcing your bad habits without you knowing it. When you feel the urge to engage in your bad habit, notice your posture. Are you slumped? Are your shoulders rolled forward? Is your head down? That posture signals defeat to your nervous system. Your brain interprets collapsed shoulders as I am powerless, and then it behaves like someone who is powerless. Try this right now. Sit up straight, roll your shoulders back, lift your chin, take a full breath. Do you feel the shift? That's not imagination. That's your vagus nerve responding to your spine alignment. That's your testosterone rising slightly and your cortisol dropping slightly. That's your physiology telling your psychology, we are ready. Before you face any craving, any trigger, any moment of potential relapse, change your body first. Stand up, stretch, open your chest, breathe. Then make your decision. You will be shocked at how much easier it is to say no when your body is saying, I am strong instead of I am defeated. Here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, I want you to catch every single instance of the phrase I can't, or I'm trying to, or I should. Replace it immediately with I don't, or I'm becoming, or I choose to. Not out loud if you're in public, but internally. Feel the difference in your body. I can't eat that feels tight and resentful. I don't eat that feels expansive and proud. Practice this 50 times a day. Make it a game. And at the end of the week, write down your new identity statement. Not I want to be healthy, that's a desire. An identity statement is I am someone who nourishes my body, not I want to be productive, that's a wish. I am someone who does what I say I will do. Say that statement out loud every morning. Look yourself in the mirror, say it like you mean it. Your brain will fight it at first, that's fine. Let it fight. You're building a new neural ridge. The old one will erode. Give it time. Section 4, the relationship toll. Who you become when no one is watching. Your bad habits are not private. You think they are. You think the late night scrolling, the secret eating, the hidden drinking, the quiet procrastination, you think it stays in the dark. But it leaks. It always leaks. The person who lies to themselves about their habits becomes the person who lies to others. Not intentionally, but the muscle of dishonesty doesn't know the difference between self and other. Every time you tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, when you know you won't, you weaken your integrity muscle. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you teach your subconscious that your word doesn't matter. And then you go out into the world and make promises to your partner, your children, your boss, your friends. And somewhere in the back of your brain, a quiet voice says, it's fine if you break this one too. You always break them. That voice is the echo of every broken self-promise you've ever made. Your relationships are suffering not because you're a bad person. Your relationships are suffering because you've trained yourself to treat your own word as optional. And that training shows up in every interaction. Let me paint you a painfully specific picture. You come home from work. You're exhausted, not because you worked hard, because you spent the day fighting yourself. You wanted to focus, but you scrolled. You wanted to speak up, but you stayed silent. You wanted to leave on time, but you procrastinated. So you come home depleted. Your partner asks how your day was. You say, fine. They ask if you want to talk. You say, not really. You're not being mean, you're just empty. The emptiness is the residue of a day spent betraying your own intentions. Then you sit on the couch. You pick up your phone, your partner picks up theirs. 2 hours pass. You go to bed without a real conversation. You wake up and do it again. That is not a relationship problem. That is a habit problem. The distance between you and the people you love is measured in the number of times you chose distraction over presence. Every scroll is a tiny abandonment. Every drink is a tiny disappearance. Every hour of procrastination is a tiny theft of the energy you owe to the people who count on you. You are not just breaking your own life. You are breaking the lives that intersect with yours. The hardest truth about bad habits is that they are rarely about the substance or behavior. They are about boundaries. The capacity to say no to the thing that feels good now in order to say yes to the thing that matters later. Boundaries with yourself are the foundation of all other boundaries. If you cannot say no to your own hand reaching for the phone, you will never say no to the boss who overworks you. If you cannot keep a promise to your own body about sleep, you will never keep a promise to your child about attending their game. If you cannot stand in your own integrity about your drinking, you will never stand up to the friend who disrespects you. Boundaries are a habit, a practice, a muscle. And right now, that muscle is atrophied because you've spent years letting every impulse win. The good news is that muscles grow when stressed. Every time you say no to a craving, you are doing a rep. Every time you close the laptop at 9 p.m. despite the pull of just one more video, you are adding weight to the bar. Every time you sit with discomfort instead of numbing it, you are building the boundary muscle that will protect your relationships, your career, your sanity, real-life scenario. You're at dinner with friends. Everyone orders dessert. You said earlier you would skip sugar this week. The waiter comes. Your friends say, "Come on, live a little." Your brain says, "Just this once." Your hand twitches. This is the moment, the boundary moment. It looks small. It feels enormous. Because in that moment, you are choosing between two versions of yourself. The version that caves to social pressure and the version that honors your own word. And hear what nobody tells you. Your friends don't actually care if you eat dessert. They're just uncomfortable with your discipline because it highlights their own lack of it. Your no makes them feel judged. That's their problem, not yours. The real relationship test is not whether you eat the cake. The real test is whether you can tolerate their discomfort without absorbing it. That is a superpower. The ability to say, "No thank you, I'm good," with a smile and zero apology. No explanation, no justification, just a calm, grounded refusal. Practice that sentence. "No thank you, I'm good." Say it 10 times right now. Feel how it lands in your body. That sentence is a boundary. That sentence is a habit. That sentence will save your life. Let me talk about the people in your life who actively undermine your growth. They exist. You know who they are. The friend who gets defensive when you mention quitting drinking. The coworker who mocks your healthy lunch. The family member who says, "You've tried this before, it never works." These people are not evil. They are threatened. Your change threatens their stability. If you get healthy, they have to face their own avoidance. If you get disciplined, they have to face their own chaos. If you get honest, they have to face their own lies. Their resistance is not about you, it's about them. But you still need to handle it. You need boundaries with them too. That might mean saying, "I'm not discussing my habits with you." That might mean spending less time with certain people for a season. That might mean loving them from a distance while you rebuild yourself. This is not selfish. This is survival. You cannot pour from an empty cup and you cannot grow in a garden that salts your soil. Protect your environment, protect your relationships, not by cutting everyone off dramatically, but by slowly, quietly choosing to spend your energy where it's honored. The people who belong in your future will cheer for your growth. The people who don't will try to pull you back into their comfort zone. Watch who cheers and who pulls. That's your map. Here is your action step. This week, identify one relationship where your bad habit has caused damage. It could be a partner, a parent, a child, a close friend. Write down one specific promise you broke with them because of your habit. Then go to them, not to apologize dramatically, to tell them the truth. Say, "I've been struggling with habit and I know it's affected you. I'm working on it. I wanted you to know." That's it. No excuses, no explanations, no begging for forgiveness, just the truth. The act of speaking the truth out loud to another human being will change your relationship with that habit more than 30 days of silent struggle. Shame dies when secrets are shared. And shame is the fuel that powers most bad habits. Starve the shame. Feed the truth. Watch what happens. Section 5. The daily routine. Small actions that destroy big habits. You are not going to wake up tomorrow as a different person. Let that land. The transformation you want will not come from a single heroic moment. It will come from 1,000 boring, unglamorous, repetitive choices that no one will applaud. The 5 a.m. alarm you answer instead of snoozing. The glass of water you drink before coffee. The 10 minutes of stretching before you check your phone. The single page you write before you allow yourself to scroll. The vegetables you eat before the carbs. The walk you take instead of the nap. These actions are not dramatic. They will not go viral. They will not earn you a standing ovation. But they will earn you something far more valuable, self-trust. And self-trust is the currency of a life worth living. Every small win deposits a coin in your self-trust bank account. Every broken promise makes a withdrawal. Most people are bankrupt by noon. They wake up, hit snooze 3 times, withdrawal, skip breakfast, withdrawal, show up late, withdrawal, half-ass the first task, withdrawal, and then wonder why they feel like a failure by lunch. You cannot feel confident when your self-trust account is empty. You cannot feel motivated when you've spent the entire morning proving to yourself that your word is worthless. The only solution is to start making small deposits. Tiny, almost insultingly small deposits. 1 push-up more than 0. 1 page more than none. 1 minute of presence before distraction. That is the daily routine that breaks bad habits. Let me give you a practical morning routine that is rooted in neuroscience and tested in the fire of real life. First, no phone for the first 60 minutes of your day. I don't care if you check the weather. I don't care if you have emails. I don't care if you're expecting a call. The first hour of your day sets your dopamine baseline for the next 12 hours. If you start with a screen, you flood your brain with easy dopamine. Then everything else, work, conversation, exercise, reading, feels boring by comparison. You spend the rest of the day chasing that first high. That's why you feel restless and unsatisfied. You're not depressed. You're dopamine depleted from the morning scroll. Put the phone in another room before you sleep. Buy an alarm clock. This one change alone will break more bad habits than any other single action. Second, drink water before caffeine. Your brain is 73% water. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, you are dehydrated. Dehydration impairs executive function. That's the part of your brain that says no to bad habits. You're trying to resist cookies while your decision-making brain is running on fumes. 2 glasses of water, then coffee. Third, move your body for 5 minutes. Not an hour. 5 minutes, stretch, jumping jacks, a brisk walk around your living room. Movement changes your physiology. It raises heart rate variability. It lowers cortisol. It tells your nervous system we are safe and we are capable. 5 minutes, that's all. Fourth, set one tiny intention for the day, not a to-do list of 20 items. One thing. I will close my laptop for lunch and eat without a screen. I will take the stairs instead of the elevator. I will make 1 difficult phone call before noon. 1 tiny victory. Win that one thing and the momentum carries you. Now let me talk about the evening routine, because most people ignore it and then wonder why they wake up exhausted. Your evening habits directly determine your morning habits. If you eat heavy food at 10 p.m., you will sleep poorly and wake up groggy. If you watch violent or anxious content before bed, your amygdala will stay activated and you'll have restless dreams. If you scroll social media in bed, the blue light suppresses melatonin and the emotional content keeps your brain alert. You are not winding down. You are revving your engine in neutral. A powerful evening routine starts with a hard cutoff. Choose a time, say 9 p.m. when screens go off, not dimmed, off. Then do something that actually winds down your nervous system. Read a paper book for 20 minutes, take a hot shower, stretch gently. Write down 3 things that went okay today, not great, just okay. The brain releases serotonin when you practice gratitude, and serotonin is the precursor to melatonin. You are literally chemically preparing for sleep. Then get into bed at the same time every night, not when you feel tired. Tiredness is a lagging indicator. By the time you feel tired, you're already sleep deprived. Set a bedtime, keep it. Your circadian rhythm is a habit, treat it like one. Here's the science of habit stacking, which is the most practical tool you'll ever learn. Attach a new habit to an existing habit. Do not try to remember to do the new thing. Anchor it to something you already do automatically. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will write 1 sentence in my journal. After I use the bathroom, I will do 10 squats. After I sit down at my desk, I will close my eyes and take 3 breaths. The existing habit is the trigger. The new habit is the response. The reward is the feeling of alignment. This works because you're not relying on memory or motivation. You're relying on the automaticity that already exists in your day. Your brain loves patterns. Give it a new pattern that piggybacks on an old one. Start with 1 habit stack, just 1. Do it for 2 weeks until it feels weird to skip it. Then add another. This is how you rebuild a life, not through heroic effort. Through tiny, consistent, anchored actions that stack into something unshakable, real-life scenario, the 3 p.m. slump. You know it. That dead hour after lunch when your energy crashes and your cravings spike. This is when most people reach for sugar, caffeine, or a scrolling break. That's a bad habit loop that feels inevitable. But it's not inevitable, it's predictable. And predictable means you can prepare. Habits stack a better response onto the 3 p.m. feeling. The feeling itself is the cue. When you notice the slump, your new response is: stand up, stretch your arms overhead, drink a glass of cold water, and walk to the window to look at something far away for 60 seconds. That's it. That entire sequence takes 2 minutes. It resets your posture, hydrates your brain, and shifts your visual focus from near to far, which reduces eye strain and mental fatigue. Then go back to work. You will feel 30% better, not 100%. 30% is enough to avoid the crash in the bad habit. 30% repeated 5 days a week for a year is a completely different life. You are not looking for perfection. You are looking for marginal improvement, compounding. The most powerful force in the universe applied to your daily routine. 1% better every day. That's the math of freedom. Your final challenge for this entire script is not a 30-day detox or a dramatic declaration. It is simpler and harder. Wake up tomorrow and do the morning routine. Just one day. No phone for 60 minutes. Water before caffeine. 5 minutes of movement. One tiny intention, that's it. At the end of that day, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. Did I keep more promises to myself today than I broke? If the answer is yes, you have started. If the answer is no, ask yourself, what one thing could I change tomorrow to make it yes? Not 10 things. One thing. The person who keeps one more promise tomorrow than they kept today is not a failure. They are a revolution in motion. And that revolution, repeated day after day, week after week, month after month, will break every bad habit you've ever carried. Not because you became stronger, because you became smarter. You stopped fighting the river and started building a dam one stone at a time. And one day, not too far from today, you'll wake up and realize the craving is gone. The urge is quiet. The habit is dead. And in its place is something you barely recognize: peace. Real, earned, unshakable peace. The peace of a person who finally kept their word to themselves. Say this out loud: I'm not my past habits. I am my daily choices. And today, I choose to become someone I can trust.